Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Fire Emblem 3 Houses Only Love Can Hurt Like This Part 1 in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 16, Complications. Sylvain walked by when they were all talking about the breakup. He overheard Annette telling the news to her friends, so he ate quickly and went searching for Felix. Felix had just finished dinner and was heading towards the fishing dock. Sylvain rushed out of the dining hall and ended up on the balcony. He spotted Felix below, and he called out to him, "Felix. Hey, wait up." Caitlin came up from behind and stopped Sylvain from going anywhere by lovingly grabbing onto his arm. "Where are you going, handsome? I thought we were gonna have a date night." Sylvain bit his cheek. Yeah, about that. I have something else really important to do." He awkwardly slipped his arm out of her grasp. She backed him into the balcony. "Like what?" "Something urgent." "Like?" Sylvain couldn't back up any further or he'd fall. "Stop asking, please. You're my boyfriend. You don't have to hide things from me." He started getting nervous. "Seriously, I have to do something." "Do what?" she demanded. "Are you keeping secrets from me?" Sylvain was finally fed up with her. "Break up with you, that's what. I can't do this anymore. You're not the right one for me, okay? Just let me go." Caitlin started crying. Her eyebrows creased in anger, and she recoiled back and slapped him hard across the face. "How dare you break up with me in front of all these people? You humiliated me. I hate you. I hope no girl ever wants to go out with you again. The rumors are true. You really are bad luck." She took the charm bracelet and threw it into the fishing pond. After that, she ran away crying. Felix stared up at the scene that had just unfolded in front of him, and blinked a few times. He made eye contact with Sylvain, who was still standing on the balcony. "Come to my room," he said quickly before turning and walking to his dorm. Sylvain turned around once he was done with the breakup. He really didn't seem too sad about it, more relieved, actually. He made eye contact with Felix and registered what he said, but when he turned around, a group of his ex's friends were surrounding him. They were like, "We saw what you did," and were being sassy and rude. He tried to just barge past them, but the group followed him, calling out awful names and mocking him to back up their said friend. He just sort of took it until they finally cleared away, giving him time to finally go upstairs to Felix's room. He didn't even knock, he just walked in and then pressed his back to the door, letting out a frustrated sigh. The side of his face was red, and he had a few scratch marks on his left cheek as well. Felix turned around, marching straight up to Sylvain. "Look at you, you're injured," he said, gently running his finger along one of the scratches on Sylvain's cheek. "Want me to kill them?" "'Cause I'll kill them," he said. "Kill them?" No. Don't do that," he replied, quickly. "This isn't the first time I've been slapped. Or scratched." He winced a little when Felix touched his cut. "I can deal with it," he sighed. Felix frowned. "You're so stupid. Didn't you say something terrible would happen to you if you called it off with that girl?" "What's gonna happen?" "I wasn't thinking about that," he honestly replied. I thought about what happened yesterday. I weighed the pros and cons of being with her and, well, I made an important decision. I decided that my freedom is more important to me than her satisfaction, but above that," he reached out and cupped Felix's face in his hand. "Is you?" Felix's cheeks went pink and he avoided Sylvain's eyes. "You better make sure that nothing happens to you. I don't know what I would do if you were to get hurt because of all this," he admitted. He grabbed Sylvain's arm and pulled him forward into a hug. He hugged him back, resting his head on his shoulder. "I don't know what will happen to me. My family might be a little disappointed, hers too. But I'll be okay. I still haven't told anyone about you, so, for now, I'm safe." He gripped Felix a little tighter. "Right," he said with a small sigh. He placed a few light kisses on Sylvain's red cheek and backed up. "Besides that, what were you calling me for?" "After dinner. I heard about what happened with you and Annette. And I was going to tell you that I wanted to break up with my girlfriend as well, But I ended up doing it right there and then. He sighed and shook his head. Things didn't go the way I planned. But hey, now you get me all to yourself. He managed to smile, then grabbed Felix's hands in both of his. I'll be impressed if you can stop your flirting. But, as long as you're mine I won't worry about anything. He replied. He went in for another kiss, but right before their lips met, there was a knock on the door. Sylvain leaned in to kiss him, but froze. Ah damn. Right when we were getting to the good part. He walked over to Felix's desk and leaned against the wall, making it seem like they weren't just about to kiss. Felix opened the door, expecting Dimitri. What do you want dash? Lady Ria was standing at the door. Hello? Can I help you with something? Felix stuttered. Lady Ria asked, may I come in? Catherine was beside her. Yes. Sure. Felix opened the door wider and allowed her to walk in. Ria eyed Sylvain for a moment before the door closed behind them. You two have been accused of aiding in the murders going on at Gareg Mach, she said. We have caught one assassin, but there is a possibility that there are more. Yes, the assassin had no ties to the Blue Lions class, but we have had several reports from soldiers and students giving us your names, she said, eyeing Sylvain once more. Catherine folded her arms, trying to look intimidating. Sylvain looked really confused when he saw Ria and Catherine. He tilted his head, obviously shocked that anyone would accuse him or Felix when there was no evidence against them at all. Sylvain stepped forward. Wait, what? You can't be serious? US? Lady Ria, I'm sorry to be so informal with you, but, what the hell? What did we do? He paused, then pointed to himself with both hands. Why do you keep looking at me? You have scratches on your face. Possibly given to you during a recent attack by a victim. She asked with a small frown. Catherine added, you two have been spotted sneaking off to remote places, just the two of you. Not suspicious at all, huh? Sylvain slowly put his hand up to his face, getting frustrated. My no, my ex did that to me. She was mad that I broke up with her and hit me with an open-faced palm. Her nails were long so it left a scratch. That's not from murdering anybody. It happened literally half an hour ago. He ignored the sneaking off part, trying to brush it off. If the others here have any sort of problem with me or Felix, they should come address it directly to us instead of tattling on us to you. You are getting very defensive, Sylvain, Ria said. Felix replied, that's because we're being accused of nothing. We didn't do anything. Catherine frowned. Okay, that still doesn't explain all the sneaking around. Yeah, he's right, Sylvain said, but, who even says we're sneaking around anyway? Did someone specifically come up to you and tell you they saw us acting suspiciously? His face was getting red, and he was standing leaning over Felix's desk while propping himself up on both hands. Yes. About 4 people did. They will remain unnamed, Ria reported. Now we know that Didu is innocent. So you two were our next targets, she explained. Targets. Lady Ria, with all due respect, that makes us sound like you're already set on accusing us in full. And I cannot allow that. He said, are you forgetting the other clues? Like the Ashen Wolf's fabric found near where Ash was ambushed? Or how the assassin that jumped Claude and His Highness was wearing the Imperial Army's armor? He gestured with his hands as he spoke. Ever think this person may be from the Empire? Or at least not me and Felix. What about that shady guy from the Black Eagle House? Or that kid from the Golden Deer House who's always painting or something? Can't be painting all the time. Or, I don't know, there's a girl from the Golden Deer House who just showed up. We know nothing about her. He felt bad accusing Shezi, since he had just danced with her, but he didn't want to be accused of something that he never did. That's enough. Ria snapped at him. Of course we have other suspects as well. You need to calm down, Sylvain. She breathed. Catherine took a deep breath in. Okay, count to 5 and take a deep breath, then let it out. When you're ready, then we'll talk. Catherine and Ria exited and waited outside. Felix angrily turned to Sylvain. Why would they accuse us? What are we supposed to tell them? Calm down. You're accusing me of murder. Wrongly. He spread out his arms. Fine. I'll take a deep breath. But it's not gonna change the fact that Felix and I are in AS. He paused and continued shortly after, Felix and I are innocent. He let them leave, then looked at Felix. This is ridiculous, he sighed and plopped down on the bed. Us? Really? This is so unfair. It's not like me to lose my head like this, but really? The most suspicious place we've ever met up was probably in that weird alley behind the stables, but still we weren't plotting murder. You know what we were doing, and it wasn't murder. He suddenly went quiet and started whispering. Whoops. Are they listening? They probably are. Sylvain, we might need to tell them. He seemed panicked. We might need to tell them about it. About us. He frowned. No, well, he seemed like he was on and off about his feelings on the subject. Things are really complicated right now. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for people to know this part of me, especially the Archbishop. He hung his head. Everyone knows me as the guy who flirts with every girl he sees. Note that I said every girl. I know. Felix glanced around nervously. But, how else are we gonna get out of this? I mean, let's be honest, we do sneak to weird places. Okay, then let's stop sneaking to weird places and sneak to normal ones. Like your room? My room? The common room? Maybe Hanneman's office if there's nowhere else to go. His last one was more of a joke. He actually chuckled slightly at the last suggestion. I'm sorry for even suggesting it. This is just a stupid situation. He anxiously shuffled over to Sylvain and leaned forward, putting his head on his chest. I won't say anything. Thank you. And I won't say anything either. Promise. He stood up and gave Felix a big cozy hug, ending it off with a little squeeze. Okay. Let's stay calm, okay. Felix said, moving over to the door and letting Rhea and Catherine back in. Rhea looked at them. Are we ready to talk? She asked. After a moment of silence she continued, what business did the two of you have in the supplies closet? Sylvain was obviously a lot calmer now that he got a hug from Felix. He was still upset about the accusations, but he wasn't gonna give up on defending himself or Felix. The supply closet? Oh well, that's an easy one. We were on stable duty and needed cleaning tools. And after that, I made out with a girl in there. He crossed his arms. I see. Rhea frowned. Sylvain, that is inappropriate, she said angrily. Felix shrugged. I tried to convince him not to. Catherine sighed. We figured you guys were innocent. Just, if we see you lurking around like that again, you won't get off the hook so easily. Yeah, you know what? It was inappropriate, he admitted. But it wasn't hurting anybody, right? The only thing that got hurt was my reputation. He shrugged, but felt relieved when Catherine said that they believed they were innocent. Rhea glared at Sylvain before the two of them exited the room and closed the door behind them. Sylvain didn't glare back at Rhea, instead he just gave her a smile and a little wave. Once the door was shut, he did the biggest sigh of relief ever and flopped back on the bed. The Archbishop was glaring at me. Did you see that? Talk about rude. Felix frowned. That was so weird. I mean, it's not like we lied or anything, he admitted, sitting beside him. Whatever. As long as we're no longer suspects. He sat up a little. It was weird. And there are a lot of weird things happening around here lately. When I signed up to come to the academy I didn't think I'd ever be in the middle of something like this. He shook his head. This is in dodging murder accusations while pretending I'm not in love with my best friend. Felix smirked. It's not that bad, is it? He nudged Sylvain's shoulder. Okay, thanks for sticking around, but I've gotta train and bathe before bed. He told him. Ugh, okay I. He got up. Maybe I'll watch. I'm not really in the mood for training right now. Especially after I just ate. And the last thing I need right now is to be seen with a weapon in my hand while the Archbishop is around. He sighed. If I at least stick around while you train, will you fend off any angry girls who are trying to defend my ex? Felix winked at him. You got it. Come on, let's get out of here. He opened the door and led the way to the training area. He trained so hard and hoped Sylvain thought he was hot. Sylvain was watching him train and thought he was so hot. He was melting, especially when Felix winked at him. Anyone passing by could definitely tell he was gawking at Felix. Soon, it was dark. Seeds put out a curfew, so everyone was supposed to be in their dorms. Annette and Mercedes decided to have a sleepover, as well as Marianne and Hilda. It was so fun. Ash wasn't invited because he was a boy. Instead, he read some lug. Casper and Linhard had a sleepover too though. It was like everyone was deciding to have sleepovers tonight. Lawrence didn't. Dimitri was alone, sitting on the edge of his bed doing nothing. He probably should have gone to bed at this point so he could feel refreshed in the morning, but he couldn't relax. He got up and put his hand on the door handle, but remembered the curfew and gently let go, frowning. As soon as Dimitri took his hand off, Didu pulled the door open. "Why, Your Highness," he said, "would you like to have a sleepover?" Dimitri gasped a little, not expecting the door to open like that. He cheered up a little bit when he saw Didu. "Oh, hello Didu. I was, actually debating on inviting you in before you decided to invite yourself." He smiled. "I'm kidding, of course. Come on in." He let Didu inside, then closed the door. Didu smiled and put a pillow on the floor and sat crisscross applesauce on it. "Thank you for allowing me in." Instead of sitting in his bed, he sat right across from Didu on the floor. "You're welcome," he said. Although they talked it out, Dimitri still felt awkward when he was with Didu. It all started after they kissed. Anything you'd like to discuss?" "No. Nothing in particular," he said, looking at Dimitri. "Do you have something you'd like to discuss?" "No," he replied, looking away. He sat with his hands on his knees, letting out a small sigh. He took a long pause before speaking again. Actually, he smiled for a second, but then it went away. He couldn't look at Didu for some reason. "What? Do you have some slumber party gossip you would like to share with me?" he teased, although his face didn't look amused in the slightest. He couldn't help but let out a chuckle. "Gossip? Who do you think I am? Sylvain? I don't usually partake in gossiping. But no, that's not what I was going to talk to you about." He drew little circles on the ground with his finger. "I just wanted to say that I feel good right now." "You do? Really?" he asked. "I know your thoughts have been plaguing you. It makes me so happy to see you this way," he told him. "Yes. I do. And I couldn't help but notice that whenever I'm with you, I actually feel quite good." He still wouldn't look up, though. "And I know for a fact that it's you making me feel better. It's not the medicinal herbs, or the tea, or the salt baths, no matter what I try, the remedies don't do anything." He looked up, "When you opened the door, I saw you and the world went away." "Really?" Didu looked at Dimitri. "Your Highness? Where is this all coming from?" he asked. "Thank you, really. But you do not have to say these things to make up for before." "Make up for before?" "Didu, that's not what this is about. I swear. I did a lot of thinking today. I thought about you, mostly. And I know I told you not to trouble yourself by looking after me, but when you're not at my side every waking moment, I find myself feeling like I'm missing something. My goal is to be there to protect you at all times. It seems as if my aid is working. That is a good thing, Your Highness. But I don't want you to just protect me," he said, suddenly sounding less confident in what he was saying. "Oh. Okay, I can do that." He nodded. "Wait, actually I'm confused. I'm not quite sure what you're asking of me." Dimitri was quiet for a few moments. "I guess I could have phrased that better," he paused. "Let me start over. Why is it that you protect me? And, don't say it's because I saved your life. Give me another reason." "Well, there are an infinite amount of reasons. But I will go with the reason above all others," he said. "It's because I love you dearly. I need to keep you safe here with me. I know you do not like to hear me say that. I already know that you do not share the same feelings. But that doesn't stop me from feeling the way I do. He didn't reply to Didu right away. Instead, he leaned back against the side of his bed, letting out a long sigh. He suddenly felt really conflicted again. He gave Didu a sincere look. Can I be honest with you, Didu? He hugged his knees to his chest. You've been open and honest with me. It's only fair that I give you the same honestly in return. Of course you can. He replied, playing with a carpet fuss. I would be happy to listen to anything you might have to say. He said, the truth is, I haven't quite figured myself out yet. I don't know what I feel for you, he kept hugging himself. It makes me happier than ever to have you by my side, but when I think about you being anything more, I get nervous. I've thought of returning your feelings. It sounds like a good idea, in my mind, but when it comes to reality, I freeze up. He frowned. I understand. We've already sorted this out, he said it like it made him sad to talk about. I appreciate you explaining it deeper though. He noticed that Didu seemed sad, which made him feel sort of guilty, but he kept talking anyway. But that's the thing, Didu, after thinking more I thought, that maybe, he swallowed nervously, I just need to, he opened his mouth to finish, but was having trouble. He was finally able to get at it after a moment of struggling. Maybe I just need to let things happen. Keeping his head aimed at the ground, Didu glanced up at Dmitri with his eyes. What are you saying? He met Didu's eyes. I'm saying, that I'm holding myself back from what I really want. What I need. He shook his head lightly. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, so why resist? You are giving yourself all the advice you need, Your Highness, he told him. I could not have said it better. It's hard to take your own advice. He said, I don't think I ever have, but today is as good a day as any to try, I think. He crawled closer to Didu, sitting to his right instead of across from him now. Yes. You don't listen to your heart as much as I think you should. Didu told him. But do not force yourself. My heart hasn't ever been too strong. At least, my heart and my head are often at war. I'm more turbulent than one would suggest from the outside. Wouldn't you say? Yes. Your mind often wanders to more serious issues. Not that you can help that. He replied, I find my own mind doing that as well. When I'm not with you. So that proves it, Dmitri started, that proves that we need one another, it proves everything that I'm feeling and thinking and saying. Didu frowned. Yes. It does. Maybe. But do we need each other in the way I think we need each other? Or does friendship satisfy you enough? When he said that, Dmitri suddenly looked like he lost confidence again. He looked back down, but his face was red. I don't know. It was like he was already rejecting his own advice, the opposite of what he wanted. You have your answer, he said quietly. You want to remain friends, and that is something I will have to come to terms with. He watched the candle flame flicker on the desk. Dmitri was a little mad at himself for getting nervous. Or maybe I have to get used to it. Maybe it's not you who has to come to terms with me. It's me, who has to come to terms with myself. He put his hand over his heart. Sounds a lot more like yourself talking, he said. But, maybe we should get some sleep. He stood up. Where would you like me to set up my bed? Dmitri stood up and got into bed. Wherever you would like. Anywhere that is most comfortable for you. But promise me you won't sleep in the chair again. I won't allow it. And if you choose to sleep on the floor, at least cushion yourself. He secretly wanted to cuddle again. Right. Okay. He said with a small nod. He laid on his side on the floor, but after laying down for a few moments in silence, he quietly got up and slid back into bed beside Dmitri. Dmitri was really happy about it, but he didn't say it. He immediately moved closer to Didu and snuggled into him, pulling the blankets up so that only his head was sticking out. You are adorable, Your Highness, he said. Oh, my apologies. That just kind of slipped out. He said quietly. He wrapped his arms around Dmitri and leaned his forehead into the back of his neck, closing his eyes. I will stop talking now. Dmitri didn't say anything back. He was hoping the darkness would hide the blush on his face. He loved it when Dida held him, and he let out a soft sleepy sigh. He muttered softly, "Sleep well, Didu," as he started drifting off. He never slept better, because he felt safe with Didu. Didu stayed awake for a long portion of the night, just enjoying his time with Dmitri and cherishing each second he was there. Chapter 17, Dear Future Husband. Morning came soon enough, and it was time for class. Everyone was said to end their sleepovers. Hanuman was teaching the Black Eagle House today. He handed out some times tables and said that they were all going to do some fast math. Linhard finished first and then took the rest of the time to take a little nap. Casper didn't even finish his times tables. Hanuman collected all the quizzes, and then it was time to go. Casper woke Linhard up by tapping him. "Hey! You had all night to sleep. I'll race ya to the bridge." He acted like he was going to run, but Linhard didn't follow him. "How about you get a head start, and I'll meet you there?" Linhard replied. "Sounds good. But don't let me find you sleeping in a weird spot if you don't show up." He ran away. Linhard sighed, then found Dorothea as the class was exiting. "Did you have a sleepover with Ingrid?" he curiously asked. "Yes. It seemed as if everyone was having sleepovers," she said. "We joined Annette and Merci after, chatting for a while. It was pretty fun," she said, fixing her grip on her bag so her books wouldn't slide out. "Most people wanted company during the early curfew, I guess. As for me, I was ready to fall asleep in solitude with a book in my lap, but Casper insisted we have a sleepover too," he said, but then got a little quiet after that as they walked. "That sounds fun. What did you guys do?" "The girls and I played Truth or Dare. It was a lot of fun, actually." "Well," he paused, "Casper just sort of came in uninvited, which I didn't mind, but I told him I wanted to go to sleep early. He didn't quite understand that I meant I wanted to sleep right away, so he grabbed my pillow and started whacking me with it. So I guess he had a pillow fight with me just so I would wake up some more." He rubbed his eyes. "But after that he finally calmed down and we talked. It really sounded like he had more to say, but he didn't go on." Dorothea laughed. "That sounds a lot like Casper," she replied. "Sorry you had a rough night. If you don't mind me asking, what did you discuss?" "It wasn't rough, just wasn't what I was expecting." He sighed. "He wanted to gossip, so I guess we did that." "Well, he did most of the talking and none of it was really progressive. He kept asking me if I liked you. He thinks I have a secret thing for you and won't let me tell him otherwise, so there's that." He shook his head. "I clearly don't like you that way, Dorothea." His voice got a little sad. "I dropped so many hints. He still doesn't get it." Dorothea chuckled slightly. "Don't worry, I didn't think you did," she told him. "What about him? Does he like anyone?" "I didn't think you thought that. He just saw us sitting together that one night, and we did go to the dance together." He shrugged. "He tells me he's too busy getting stronger to care about girls. Which tells me two things: he's uninterested in me, and probably uninterested in anyone else. So the chances of things going my way are slim to none." He kicked a little pebble as he walked. "Last night, I told him I wasn't interested in girls. He didn't quite understand, then told me I was probably just too embarrassed to admit I liked you." He rolled his eyes. Dorothea smiled. "It's kinda cute. He acts like a little child. And, no offense to you, but can I ask what you see in him?" Linhard sighed. "Well, I would never tell him this to his face, but he's a lot more charming than he realizes. And I don't mean in looks, not to say he's lacking in that department. I just find him really dependable. And dedicated. The guy just never gives up, you know? Yeah, we have our arguments and disagreements at times, but in the end, he's been my best friend since we were, 6 years old? Our fathers despise each other, but we didn't want to end up like them. And in doing so, we became friends. And, he managed to get me to fall for him. Not even I saw that coming." Dorothea smiled. "It's usually the people you least expect," she told him as they walked through the halls. That's how I felt with Ingrid. I didn't see it coming, it just kinda happened. I don't think I ever asked. How long have you known Ingrid? I'm rooting for you, you know. I think you deserve her. You're both wonderful people who deserve each other. At least, that's my opinion. That's very sweet of you, she replied. We've known each other for quite some time actually. She put her finger on her chin. But it wasn't until maybe last year when I started to adapt feelings for her. I'm not usually one to compliment, so, know that I mean it when I do, he said. But I think attraction is strange. Not saying we're attracted to the wrong sort of people, but, it's complicated. It almost feels like a waste of time thinking about it. I mean, when you think about it, the probability is very low that we will end up with Casper and Ingrid. So why do we pine and yearn like this? I think it's because it's fun. Well, partly, she responded with a small shrug as they arrived at her room. She leaned against the wall. Isn't it? To be able to talk about it like this. Fun? I never really thought of it as fun. I mean, every time I think of Casper, it feels like an arrow is piercing through my heart. He stopped with her, holding his books under his arm. And that's not a very fun feeling at all. I'd rather fight sleep than think about my impossible desires. Yes. Well, of course, that part comes with it, she said with a small sigh. Hey, mind if I ask you something? Well, it might be kind of stupid, but what do you say to the idea that if we end up lonely without anyone to take care of us in the future, then we'll live with one another, and spend the rest of our lives together? Maybe it's a stretch, but what do you think? Me and you. It sounded like he really wasn't expecting her to ask that, but not in a bad way. He nodded after a little while. I like that idea. I really do. And I'm not just saying that because I think that's what you want to hear, I'm genuinely happy thinking about it. He smiled softly. As long as we can live somewhere where there's plenty of peace and quiet. He frowned after a few moments, though. But, my mind can't help but wander to dark places. I'm afraid that if it comes to that, it will mean my best friend has died. I find that rather plausible. Casper tends to rush into things. I think he needs me more than he thinks. No, that's not what it means, she told him. It just means that Casper has found someone else. And Ingrid as well. Just try not to think about it because all of this is far away. She waved her hand. Just a suggestion of sorts. She held her pinky out. Promise. Sorry. I didn't mean for the conversation to take a dark turn. I do worry, though. Not just for myself, but for you as well. He reached out and made the pinky promise with her. Which is why I promise to find you again should I ever find myself in need of good company for the rest of my days. He smiled. She smiled back. Perfect. I'll see you around, Linhard. Happy studying. She waved and skipped backwards into her room, closing the door. Thank you. I hope your day goes smoothly, Dorothea. You deserve it. He gave her a respectful nodding gesture as she left, and then he started walking to meet Casper at the bridge. He was already late, but that didn't stop him from taking his time. Later that day, Petra approached Edelgard outside of the classroom. Hello, I am having a question for you. Edelgard was writing something on the chalkboard that looked like battle strategy notes. It was something they were being taught in class. Hubert was all the way in the back of the classroom watching. When Petra came in, she turned around. Petra? What do you need? She put the chalk down and dusted her hands off. Well, I was just wondering if we have been finding the killer yet, she asked. I was hearing that it was a member of the Empire. No, Edelgard replied, to be honest, I'm a bit enraged. Infuriated, even, to know that the church is pinning the murders on a member of the Black Eagle House. I refuse to believe someone from our house would do such a thing, no matter what the evidence suggests. Perhaps the killer was the rogue soldier from Inver, but we won't know that unless someone else is killed, or if the murders have stopped. So, how do you expect us to be continuing on with our days? She asked. The person caught did leave evidence of being from the Imperial Army. She said sadly. I am just not knowing what to do. I will defend my class with all that I have, Edelgard said. The Imperial assassin was just a fluke. They were separate from the killer, I'm sure of it. At least, I want to be sure of it. I don't have much physical evidence, but my hunch is strong. She sighed. This issue seems to be pitting the houses against each other. Only members of the Blue Lions and Golden Deer have been targeted, making us seem like the ones to blame. If you ask me, the Golden Deer House has been awfully quiet about this, and the Blue Lion House is acting like it's being victimized. Petra frowned. Well, it would not be being fair to count us out either. We really have not knowledge who it was. She said, I was just coming to ask if you had found out yet. Thank you, she said before slowly walking out, seeming as if she still had more to say. You're welcome. Stay safe out there, Petra, she admonished. If you find anything, or see anything, report back to me immediately. Right. I will, Petra replied. She walked back towards her room, and didn't feel much better than she did before talking with Edelgard. She hoped she was telling the truth. Ferdinand caught up with Petra on her way out. Halt, Petra. Not to be overly inquisitive, but, were you just having a chat with Edelgard? Oh. Ferdinand. How nice it is to see you. She nodded, her eyes brightening when she saw him. Yes, I was. Are you about to as well? No, I was actually hoping to talk with you. You see, I am trying my best to solve this case. If I am able to figure out who is behind all of this, think of all the praise I will receive. I am guessing Edelgard is heavy on the case too, so I am going to try and solve this before she does. At the moment, I have a bad feeling about the Blue Lion House. I mean, the Golden Deer have really suffered. They must have some sort of secret quarrel going on here. I mean, it is much more than a quarrel at this point, but you get what I mean, do you not? I do not see why you both are accusing them when the assassin found had our marks on them. Also, people have been fearing me, and saying that I am being the killer, all because I am from Brigid, she said with a small frown. It hardly seems fair to me. Favoritism, I think it's called. Favoritism? I think you mean patriotism. We're from the Adrestian Empire, of course we are going to fight for our innocence, he explained. Of course, if we do end up being at fault, the most noble thing to do would be to own up to it. I'd promise to repay those who were hurt with unmatchable kindness. I see where you are coming from. I value truth deeply. I can tell you one thing, it was not me. She said, shaking her head. I believe you when you say that, Petra. You are the last one I'd expect besides myself, of course. He gave her a friendly smile. If it is the truth you value deeply, then I can assure you it is not me either. Good. Please let me know if you are finding anything on this subject. Goodbye. She waved to him and headed back to her room. I will see you around, Petra. He gave her a little bow, then started walking off, thinking to himself. He was trying way too hard to find evidence that probably didn't exist. Chapter 18, Can I Have This Dance? The next hour passed, and the afternoon classes commenced. Manuela was teaching, and told everyone that it was time to do 5-minute journals. She collected everyone's journals, and then class was over. Yay! Ash had a business where he taped everyone's pencils back together and also crayons. He worked on that after journaling when he was waiting for the rest to be done. Annette picked up her freshly taped blue crayon from Ash at the end of class. When he finished his journal, Dimitri talked with Sylvain for a little while before putting his bag on. He walked to Dida's desk and gently tapped his arm to get his attention. Will you come with me for a moment? Please. Dida stood up and held his bag. Yes, of course, he said. He wasn't busy, nobody was talking to him anyways, as usual. He followed Dimitri. It may be for longer than a moment, but I owe you something. It's been on my mind for quite a while. He brought Dida through the marketplace, and then into town. It was a beautiful day. I feel guilty for rejecting you at the ball, he sighed, stopping at the end of a block. I was selfish. I didn't realize how much it meant to you that you got to share a dance with me. Do not be silly, Your Highness, he said, looking around him at the town. not even flinching at the glares he was getting from people. It would not have looked right to the students. You were correct. But I must have hurt your feelings. You don't show emotion that strongly, but I know you have them. So I'm sorry, Didu. I really am. He put a hand to his heart to show sincerity, but he was starting to notice the glares Didu was getting, which frustrated him. Do not apologize, Your Highness, Didu pleaded. You have nothing to be sorry for. My feelings bear no importance. All that matters is you. He glanced around, but was mainly focusing on Didu. You know, I'll never stop refuting you when you say that, because your feelings do matter to me. A lot of people might cast you aside, but you're the most important person to me. A lot of people passing by looked uncomfortable around Didu. A little kid saw him and started crying, so his mom took him away. It makes me very happy to hear you say that, Didu said with a small smile. But may I ask why did you dash? Suddenly, someone threw a cup full of water at Didu. It drenched him, and he stopped walking, looking down at his damp school uniform. The man yelled something vile before walking away. Dmitri didn't have time to react and stop what just happened. He turned around to see the man walking away, and marched straight up to him. Hey! He was basically losing his temper at this point. He might have hurt the guy if he wasn't in public, but for now he just stood in front of him. I don't know who you are or where you're from, but I will see that you are punished for your actions. The man looked at Dmitri for a moment before replying, This town is huge mate, good luck finding me. Especially with that thing clawing at ya back. He scurried off. Didu used his sleeve to dab the water droplets from his face. Dmitri fumed, clenching his fists. He wished he could have done more, but the guy ran off before he had the chance. He walked back over to Didu and frowned. I'm sorry. Really, I just wanted to take you into town for a pleasant afternoon stroll, but, he shook his head, it's not working out the way I planned, is it? He brought Didu to a small alleyway and pulled out a cloth. Here. Use this. Thank you, he said shakily, using the cloth to wipe the remaining water from his face. That was kind of you. He pocketed the cloth. My day is not ruined yet. I am with you, Your Highness, how could it be? He said. I guess there are some who don't recognize me, he said. Honestly, I don't care if they don't recognize me. All I care about is that they recognize you as a human being who deserves respect. I appreciate it. But may we continue our walk? I do not want to let these people ruin our day. They have no part in it, he said to Dmitri. Of course. You're right. He figured Didu must be used to it by now, but he wasn't. He probably never would be. All he wanted for Didu was a country that would accept him. And when he became king, he would make that happen. He let Didu dry his face before heading back to the sidewalk. Further ahead, there was a band on the side of the road playing some music. The town was really upbeat. When they got closer, Dmitri stopped walking and watched the people dancing. He stared for a while, then gently moved his hand over a few inches and grabbed Didu's hand. Didu slowly looked from the dancers, down at their hands. He looked up at Dmitri. Your Highness, he spoke softly. We are in public. He met Didu's eyes. I know. He walked Didu over to where everyone was dancing, and put his hand on his shoulder. Most of the people were too busy dancing to notice them at the moment. Do you mean to share a dance with me? He asked. In the middle of town. He didn't bother to glance at anyone around them. Yes, but only if you are comfortable with it, he replied, warmly. He didn't look around either. He only cared about Didu right now, not about the surrounding villagers. Of course I am. He chuckled. Was I not the one who wanted a dance in the first place? He said, placing a hand on Dmitri's waist. He led the dance, and was actually really good at it. Dmitri raised his eyebrows. Did you just laugh? He wasn't able to hold back a smile. It caught me a bit off guard. But in a good way. He was a little surprised how good Didu was at dancing. He was really enjoying it. He wasn't too bad at dancing either, keeping in time with the lively music. The song ended, but Didu didn't release Dmitri just yet. I feel as if I need to thank you. You had no reason to repay me with a dance, but you did it anyway. He stopped dancing, but held tight to Dida's hand. I had every reason to. I wanted to make you happy and I think I achieved my goal. You don't have to repay me in any way, because this was my way of repaying you. Okay. Okay, Dida replied with a nod, taking a step away from Dmitri. Thank you again. It was lovely, he said, still smiling. You're welcome, Dmitri said, smiling back. He just looked at him for a while, but when Dida stepped back, he let go of his hand. There were people pointing at them and whispering, but he didn't care, obviously. Shall we head back to the monastery? It's a shame we have to end our time together, but yes. We should. We do not want to miss dinner, Dida said, leading the way back towards the marketplace. As he was walking, his hand accidentally brushed up against Dida's. He could have grabbed his hand, but in the end he decided not to. At dinner, Sylvain was sitting by himself. There were some nasty rumors going around about him, mainly because of his ex's friends who wanted to help her get revenge. Felix, today, decided not to sit with Sylvain. Instead, he sat with Dorothea and Ingrid. After a bit of talking, Dorothea stood up and plopped herself down across from Sylvain. Hello, handsome. You look so lonely over here. Sylvain poked at his food with his fork, not really eating it. He looked bored and sort of miserable, but he picked his head up when Dorothea sat with him. He tried not to look so mopey, and put on a fake smile. Hey. Nice to have a little company. I was getting sick of staring at the empty seat in front of me. Now, instead, I get to stare at a beautiful girl. His flirting sounded a little flat compared to normal. She leaned forward, narrowing her eyes. You're not fooling anyone. I know you and Felix have something going on. He won't tell me, but I'm sure you would, huh? She asked, keeping her voice low. His face suddenly got super red and he started choking on a bite of food that he took. He coughed into his sleeve, then drank some water to soothe his throat. That choking was unrelated to your statement. He pointed at her. Obviously, he wasn't telling the truth. There are so many rumors going around right now that it's hard to pick one not to believe, isn't it? Well, that's the untrue one. Everything else you've heard about me? True. Except for that. Dorothea chuckled. Oh come now, I can see right through your lies. You and I are more alike than you might think. She told him, biting on the end of her straw. I interrogated Felix as well. He wouldn't crack either. All he said was that you two were close. That could mean a lot of things, she said with a shrug. We've been friends for a very long time, he replied, still blushing. It wasn't a deep blush, but it was definitely noticeable. That's what he means when he says we're close. I'd do all I could to protect him on the battlefield and he would do the same for me. That's all. He paused for a bit. Besides, I like Ingrid, okay? I think everyone knows that. It's always the one who doesn't return your feelings that you fall hardest for, am I right? Haha, he obviously didn't know about Dorothea liking Ingrid. Right. Friends, she said, rolling her eyes. And for your information, Ingrid and I are going you together, she lied. She's my girlfriend. So don't get any naughty ideas, she said without thinking. She immediately felt guilty, but stuck to it. Whoa wait. What? He seemed utterly shocked to hear this news. Ingrid's You and Ingrid are like, a thing? For real? He widened his eyes like he couldn't believe it, and went slack-jawed. No wonder Ingrid's always extra upset when I hit on her. Yes, now hush. Just, don't tell anyone. And in return, I won't tell anyone about you and Felix. Deal? She asked, holding out her hand towards Sylvain. He slammed both of his hands onto the table and leaned forward a little instead of shaking her hand. There's nothing to tell. Besides, since when is my love life any of your concern? Or anyone's really? There's nothing going on, okay? It's just a rumor. Why are you getting so angry? She said, dropping her hand. Can't you see I want to help? Flane has been running her mouth about the two of you. If you cared about your relationship at all, you would let me in on it. She stood up, looking down at him. Unless you're telling the truth. It really looks to me like you don't care for Felix even an ounce. Sylvain gripped his fork tighter when she mentioned Flame telling everyone about what she saw, then angrily stabbed a piece of chicken on his plate and ate it. However, he stood up when she accused him of not caring about Felix. I do too care. He pointed to himself with his thumb, then calmed down a little, looking around cause he drew some attention. Instead, he grabbed Dorothea's arm and brought her into the courtyard outside the dining hall so that they were obscured by some bushes. Look, you're right. Felix and I are together. And we've been trying to keep it a secret for many reasons, so don't you dare go telling anyone, okay? Seriously, there's a lot at stake here. I promised Felix I wouldn't tell anyone. He put his hands on his head like he felt bad for breaking his promise. Look, I'm not going to tell anyone, she said with a small smile. I just appreciate knowing that there are others like me around here, she told him. Hey, don't feel bad. Please. She rubbed his upper arm. Don't you worry, I'll diffuse these rumors effortlessly. You just keep doing what you've been doing. She winked at him. Have a good night, Sylvain. She waved to him before skipping off. Okay. I trust you, he let out a short sigh. I appreciate you trying to stop the rumors. Really? If you can put an end to them, I'll really owe you. I'll find a way to pay you back, I promise. He nodded, feeling a little better. Thanks, Dorothea. I hope you can have a good night too. He waved as well, then turned around to get back to the dining hall, hoping that nobody heard him and Dorothea's conversation. It still didn't sit right with him that he told someone about him and Felix, but he tried not to think about it too much. Chapter 19, Take Me, Goddess. As the day went on, curfew hit and everyone was off to bed. During the middle of the night, while everyone else was asleep, Marianne decided to leave her room. She made her way to the spot where Ash was attacked. Her hands were shaking, and her hair was disheveled. She clasped her hands together in prayer before squeaking out a small, "Hello? Assassin? I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm here. I'm here for you. A free target. Please," she begged, her eyes closed tightly. It was a pretty quiet night, obviously, because there was a curfew. A cloud passed over the moon, blocking out the moonlight for a little bit. There were still some specks of blood on the ground from when Ash was attacked, but they were fading. In the distance, someone else was standing near the ledge, looking down. They turned and saw Marianne, confused, and walked over. It was Monica, from the Black Eagles. She stopped in front of Marianne. "What are you doing out here? I heard you talking." Huh. She backed up, startled. What are you doing out here? You should go back to your room. There's a curfew, you know, she told Monica. Monica nodded. I know, but I just can't sleep knowing there's a killer on the loose. I'm doing my best to make sure the murderer doesn't sneak up on Lady Edelgard while she's asleep. That would be devastating. I know Hubert's already doing that, but more help never hurts. Well, I would like to be alone right now, Marianne said, looking down at her feet. She couldn't bring herself to look Monica in the eye. Please. Fine. She acted like she was about to walk off, but her expression suddenly darkened. But I heard what you said, you're waiting for the killer to show up and take your life, aren't you? You said, I'm here for you. A free target. Please. She didn't leave like Marianne wanted. Maybe we could wait together? It would be tragic if the murderer showed up while you were all alone. Really? And no. Marianne backed up. I don't want anybody here with me. She said, that was meant for the goddess's ears and the assassin's ears. Nobody else's. She glanced up at the sky. Well. I heard, Monica said, and it's not like I'm going to tell anybody what you said. At least, if we both don't die out here tonight. She looked around, but there was no sign of anyone yet. Honestly, I'm kinda hoping this person shows up sooner than later and finishes the job. Quickly, at that. Marianne started crying, looking downwards to hide her tears. Please, leave, she begged, still refusing to look at her. I need to do this. Why? What's so horrible about your life that you want to throw it all away? Monica asked. She took a few steps closer to Marianne. Are you bored of living? Marianne started shuffling away. Please stop. I do not want to talk to anyone right now, she said, turning around and beginning to walk the other way. Are you sure? Monica didn't follow her, though. She stood right where she was, and lowered her hand out of her long coat sleeve to reveal a glinting object. Yes. Thinking about my problems is making everything worse. Marianne turned and faced Monica. Just, don't follow me. If my body is found, tell Ria that I did it by my own hand. She asked, would you do that? So, if the killer found you, you'd want to make it look like you took your own life? You'd let someone get away with murder if it meant the others would know you wished to die? Monica asked. She hesitated. I don't know. All I want is for others to be relieved of my presence. She said truthfully. You think people don't like having you around? Your existence feels like a burden, doesn't it? Monica walked a little closer. Let me ask you something. Marianne, do you truly want to die tonight? She seemed to hesitate again. That is why I came out here. So the goddess can take me to her, she said sadly, wiping a tear from her eye. If you want to die so badly, why not do it yourself? What's holding you back? You're crying, something tells me you don't want this. Monica shook her head. It would be best. I know that it would, Marianne said. I could not do it myself. That would be selfish, she replied. There was a moment of silence between them, but after a little while, Monica took another small step closer to her. You're making this very easy for me, you know that. What? What do you mean? Please do not tell Lady Ria I am doing this, she pleaded. Please. She backed away again, not wanting to be taken to Ria. No, no. Marianne, you clearly don't understand. Monica raised her hand, revealing a knife. I can make it look like you took your own life. What? Marianne looked up at Monica in horror. I don't, and no. She exclaimed, taking a few more steps backwards, suddenly afraid. You were just begging for the killer to hear your plea for death moments ago, weren't you? Well, here I am. Monica closed in on Marianne, backing her against the wall. Unless you want to do it yourself. She turned the blade so the handle was pointed at Marianne. Marianne took the knife from her and stared down at it for a moment. I don't know, she said quietly. A million different questions were circling her mind. She didn't know what to do. You can do it, Marianne, you want to, don't you? Think of how relieved they'll be when they know you're gone, think of how relieved you'll be moments before everything goes dark, and you don't have to worry about a thing anymore. I'll bet the feeling's sweet. She took a deep breath and then let it out. The goddess welcomes you. Marianne held the blade up to her wrist. She was shaking badly. I want to. She spoke calmly. I need to. She sliced along her arm and let out a sharp gasp, letting the knife clatter to the floor. Instant regret flooded her face. Monica grabbed Marianne's arm as soon as she dropped the knife so that she couldn't run away. There. See? Wasn't so bad, was it? She held Marianne's arm up so that she could watch the blood drip down. She started pulling Marianne toward the corner of the wall. Marianne screamed for help until her throat was raw. She clawed at Monica to release her, but she was losing blood quickly, and becoming weak. She fell limp in her grip. Why are you doing this? She coughed. Hilda looked out her dorm window hearing some sort of commotion. Who's screaming? She yawned, rubbing her eyes. This is really creepy. She grabbed her axe and stepped outside the door, heading slowly towards the source of the sound. After Marianne got quiet, she wasn't sure which way to go anymore. Monica wasn't very strong, but she was strong enough to keep Marianne from escaping. Because, she answered, I'm not exactly the person that you think I am, she chuckled, and once Marianne got quiet, she let go, standing up. Monica looked over her shoulder. Marianne shakily reached up towards Monica and grabbed onto her pant leg. Please, don't leave me here. Finish this, please. She cried, weakly gripping the fabric. Hilda held her axe with 2 hands, using nothing but moonlight to guide her way. She crept along the church walls, and peeked behind a bush to look near the well. She couldn't quite make out what was happening, but figured it was just Sylvain and a girl or something. She squinted, watching. Monica picked up the knife. "You wanted me to make this look like suicide, didn't you? When you're done, I'll give you the knife back. And then it will be like I was never here," she said. "Just close your eyes. It will be like going to sleep." Marianne limply let her arm fall to the ground. She had no more energy to fight for her life, nor did she want to. That's Marianne," Hilda yelped, running out from her cover. "Monica! What are you doing?" She threw a small throwing axe at her in an attempt to remove her from Marianne. "I knew something was fishy with you ever since you joined the Black Eagles," she hissed. Marianne took a small look at Hilda before closing her eyes with relief. It was probably too late to lie, but she ducked to dodge the axe, then stood to face Hilda, putting on a facade. She shook her head. "It wasn't me. I was out here, just taking a moonlit stroll, and then I noticed her out here. She begged for the goddess to take her and then she cut herself. I tried getting her to come with me but she resisted, and there was nothing I could do." She looked at Marianne with wild eyes, then Hilda. "You could have killed me with that axe, you know." "Oh, shut up. I'm not buying any of your bullshit," Hilda shouted, running towards Monica and swinging her axe hard downwards. Monica jumped to the side and rolled to evade before standing up again. "Fine. There's no use in hiding it. I'm the killer. It's me. It's always been me." She didn't have any weapons on her besides the singular knife. "But I didn't kill Marianne. She did that to herself. And she wanted everyone to know that she did it herself." She narrowed their eyes, smiling at Hilda. "Would you shut up? Your voice is making my head hurt." Hilda took a step back before screaming out for the one person who she knew would come to her rescue. "Seath, hurry. Come quickly." Monica started backing up, stopping when she hit the ledge. "You can call for help all you want, but I'm not going to let you catch me that easily." She looked to her right and noticed Seath sprinting across the bricks, and then she leaned back and fell over the edge of the chapel wall. Seath made it to Hilda, not noticing Marianne in the corner. "Hilda! What's going on here? Are you hurt?" He glanced around, but then saw Marianne. "Oh, no," he sprinted over to her and knelt down, checking for a pulse. He immediately started trying to staunch the flow of blood coming from her arm. "Marianne! Are you conscious?" He looked back at Hilda. "Fetch a healer." Monica tried to kill her. "She's the killer." Hilda was frantic. "Hold on, stay right there." She ran away and came back soon after with a sleepy Mercedes, who healed Marianne before she could die. Hilda was sobbing. She hugged Mercedes tightly. Marianne was still unconscious, though alive. Seath helped the best he could. "Thank you, Hilda. Without your quick thinking, it may have been too late to save her. I'll send some guards to look for Monica," he said. "We need to get Marianne to the infirmary. Come on." He lifted her up and brought her inside to safety, where the medics tended to her. Seath approached Hilda. "I think she will be okay. It will take a while for her to heal, but we'll do all we can to ensure that she pulls through." "Thank you, Seath." Hilda sobbed, hugging him tightly. "I was so scared, but we found the killer. Everything is going to be all right now, isn't it?" she asked, looking up at him with an unsure gleam in her eye. Seath let her sob into him for a while before letting her go. "We can't tell for certain until we catch Monica. But for now, Marianne will recover. We'll do all we can to settle this, I promise. It's my duty as Lady Ria's advisor to protect all of the students at this school. I will not let her or my students down." "Thank you, Seath. I'm going to spend the night with Marianne." "Good night." She wiped her tears and picked up her axe before scampering away towards Marianne's bed. She looked down at her, sobbing dreadfully for the girl she loved more than anything else. "Stay safe," he admonished, giving her a little bow as she headed off. He looked at Marianne with a sigh. "I truly am sorry this had to happen before we could catch the killer." He sadly spoke with the medics for a while, then headed off. Chapter 20, As Pretty as a Sunset. The next morning, everyone was discussing last night's events. Ignatz was in shambles over what had just happened with Marianne. He was standing at the fishing dock. Leonie went and stood next to Ignatz. "Hey, you okay?" she asked. She was holding a javelin with a signature on it. "I heard about what happened. I went and visited Marianne before breakfast, but I wanted to make sure you were okay too." "Ah, yes, I am totally fine," he replied. "I'm just so worried about her. I can't believe someone would target her like that. It makes me so sad." "Me too, and she was the second person targeted from our house, too. Things aren't looking so good for the golden deer, huh?" She frowned. "Here." She handed him a few flowers that she was holding in her other hand. "I was going to give these to Marianne, but I think you should. It would mean a lot more coming from you than from me." "I can't do that," he said, giving the flowers back. "That's a thoughtful gift from you," he told her. "I'm making her something." He seemed embarrassed. "You are?" She took the flowers back. "What are you making? Are you painting her a picture?" She smiled. "If so, she's gonna love it." "Yes, I am." He was really shy. "It's her and I sharing a dance together, beneath a beautiful sunset." "Is that bad?" "Oh, I knew it. It's awful." He hung his head in his hands, feeling defeated. "What? No. It's not bad." "Well, it probably isn't. I haven't seen it. I just know it's probably gorgeous." "You're a great painter, Ignatz. Think of how big she'll smile when you give it to her." "She doesn't smile very much, but I'm sure she will once she sees what you've been working on." "Maybe, but the idea, it's too embarrassing. Why would she ever want an image of me?" "I'm an idiot." He sighed, tossing a stray stone into the water. "An idiot? I wouldn't go as far as to say that. I don't understand why you think she won't like it. She clearly likes you. So why wouldn't she want to look at a picture of the two of you?" Leonie asked. "I don't know," he said with a small sigh. "I'll just have to try my best, huh? It will be finished by this evening. I was going to give it to her while the sun sets. She could probably really use a beautiful painting right now. She was almost murdered last night. I think a beautiful painting from a loved one is enough to warm anybody's heart, don't you think?" "Leonie," Ignatz spoke quietly. "She went out that night in an attempt to take her own life." He felt himself start to tear up. She wanted to die. She wanted that. How could anyone, especially someone as special as her, wish for that? "It makes me so sad," he hugged Leonie, needing some way to get his emotions under control. Oh, she clearly didn't hear that part of the story, and it shocked her. It actually brought tears to her eyes, but she wanted to be tough. Gerald taught her not to let her feelings get in the way, so she held it in the best she could. "That's so awful. I'm sorry for her for not knowing. Because there might have been something I could have done to help if I knew. And I'm sorry for you too. It's depressing to think about." She hugged him back. He let go and sniffled. "I just care about her so much. I don't understand how she could hate herself. I mean, everyone adores her so dearly. Maybe we should gather the classes and make something for her, like a poster or something. Yeah. We can make her a big get well soon banner. And that way, we can show her that we all love and care about her. Maybe that will make her feel at least a little better, right?" Leonie quickly wiped her eyes. "This sounds like a great idea. I'll tell the Blue Lions, and you can gather the Black Eagles? We'll meet before lunch." "Sounds like a plan. And don't worry if anyone says no, I'll get them to come anyway. Marianne needs all of our support right now more than ever." She put her hand on Ignatz's shoulder. "Especially yours." He blushed. "Aw shucks, Leonie, thanks. That really means a lot to me. I'll see you soon, okay?" He waved before scampering off and spreading the news about the plan. "See you soon." She went to gather the Black Eagles for the poster. She persuaded everybody, and they all worked really hard to make Marianne a really awesome banner. They even got her some presents. The student body gathered around the infirmary just after dinner time. They all filed into the room, holding up the banner. Marianne was still eating her dinner, holding her fork in her non-dominant hand. What's all this? She mumbled, looking up from her tray. Raphael said, "Today. We made you a get well soon poster. We all love ya and want you feeling better as soon as possible." Leonie put a vase of flowers on her bedside table. "We all support you, Marianne, and we've all been worried sick." "Why you guys, this wasn't necessary," Marianne said, gently placing her tray down. "Thank you all so much," she smiled brightly, watching as Hilda placed a small owl stuffed animal beside the pillow. "It really was," said Leonie. "And guess who thought of it?" She gave Ignatz a gentle push so that he would step forward. "Ignatz did. He wanted to make sure you felt loved by all of us. Isn't that right?" She looked at Ignatz. Ignatz blushed. "Ah hee hee, yes. I thought you deserved it." "We all did." Marianne was crying, but this time from happiness. "I don't know how to thank you all," she couldn't stop smiling. "This means everything to me." Leonie gave Ignatz a little nudge with her elbow. "See? I told you she'd smile. And she's going to be smiling even bigger later. You gotta tell me her reaction, got it?" "I will," he said quietly to Leonie. One by one, the students began to file out, giving their best wishes to Marianne before doing so. Ignatz decided to hang back by himself. Raphael gave Ignatz a big pat on the back as he walked out, like he was telling him, "Marianne needs you." He walked out with the rest of the group. Ignatz watched his friends leave, then pulled up a stool and sat beside Marianne's bed. Hello," he said awkwardly, unsure of if he should rest his hands in his lap or on the edge of the bed. "Hello." Marianne responded softly, "Thank you for organizing all of this. It's very lovely." "Ah well, I just think you're a very special girl, Marianne. I really do." He glanced out the window, where the sky was just beginning to turn a brilliant orange color. "Speaking of, I actually have something for you." "You do? But I have already received such wonderful gifts." "Yes, but, here." He pulled the canvas out from his brown leather bag and handed it to her. "What do you think?" Marianne looked down at the painting, and her eyes welled with tears. They pooled over her eyelids and slipped down her cheeks. "Ignatz, this is beautiful. Thank you so much." She looked at him now, a small smile on her face. Ignatz smiled back at her, and felt himself beginning to tear up. He took his glasses off, and rubbed his eyes with the back of his hand to stop any tears from falling. "I'm so glad you like it. I was hoping to capture your beauty perfectly. But, you're so much prettier in real life." He chuckled. Marianne blushed, looking away from him shyly. Ignatz continued, "I actually have something that I've been meaning to ask you." Marianne directed her attention back towards him, listening. He cleared his throat nervously, then took a deep breath to steady himself. "I want you to be my girlfriend, Marianne," he exclaimed. "You are dear to me. So very dear to me. And I couldn't ever imagine myself caring about someone as much as I care for you. You're absolutely beautiful, you share my love for the goddess, and you are kind. So very kind. And you listen to me when I need a friend. So please, will you give me the honor of allowing me to be your partner?" His face was a bright red as he looked at her. The rays from the sunset shone a glimmering gold on her cheeks from the stained glass windows behind her hospital bed. Marianne's content expression turned to one of uncertainty. "Me? How could you ever want to be with someone as unlucky as I?" "Unlucky? Oh no Marianne, you couldn't be. You could never be. To me, you are perfect." "Perfect? Yes. Absolutely perfect. I don't care how long it takes you to love yourself. I will be there every step of the way." Marianne continued, "And, if I can never love myself, then I will love you 100 times more. No, 1,000,000. Infinite." He chuckled, adjusting his glasses. "I will be patient. Even if it means I get to spend just a single moment with you." Marianne looked up at him. She wanted to cry, and scream to him that he should leave and never come back. She couldn't comprehend that someone, especially someone like Ignatz, could ever love her. But instead, she replied, "Yes. I would love nothing more than to be with you, Ignatz." "Thank you." Ignatz's eyes sparkled with joy, and he reached over, grabbing her uninjured hand in his. "No need to thank me. I spoke nothing but the truth." His eyes rested on her bedside table, where her full tray of food was still sitting. "Oh, are you hungry? It must be hard to eat with an injured hand." His heart was still racing, but even so, he needed to be there for her. No matter what. He reached over and grabbed the tray of food, scooping a small portion of soup onto the spoon. "Let me help." He smiled gently, feeding her the soup and talking to her about all of his favorite memories at school they had shared so far. Marianne was grateful. In the middle of the night, there was a crash from within the hallway. "What was that?" Annette exclaimed, quickly lighting her beside lantern. She opened her door and peeked outside, fearing that there might be a ghost. Ash was on the floor, and his crutches were on the ground around him. A desk was knocked over a few yards away from him. "Annette? Sorry. I probably woke you up. It was too dark to see and I guess I bumped into the desk. Clumsy me. You scared me so bad." Annette breathed, rushing out to help him. She made sure he was steady on his feet before giving him his crutches. "There we go. I know you're right next door to me, but need any help?" He took the crutches and stood up, a bit wobbly. "Thank you. I'm sorry to trouble you this late. I think I was a bit nervous walking through the dark and I couldn't see where I was going, so I bumped into this desk. Would you mind holding the light for me so I can see? I was just on my way back from the washroom." "Oh, of course." She grabbed the lamp and walked slowly beside him. "Good thing I heard you." "Yes. Otherwise I would have spent the night right there on the floor. What a pain in the neck that would have been, huh." He crouched all the way back to his room. "Again. I'm sorry. I hope everyone else is still sleeping. Don't worry about it. You just get some sleep. Good night, Ash." She made sure he was safely in his room before going back to her own. "Good night," he said. "I'll see you in the morning, that is, if I can navigate to breakfast on these crutches." He sighed, then headed back into his room. He was secretly really embarrassed that he fell because he got scared of the dark. The next day, classes went on as usual. Although, in the Golden Deer class with Seath, Hilda raised her hand. I'm sorry. I know this is off topic, but has Monica been caught yet?" Seath was teaching them all about PEMDAS. He called on her, but frowned when she asked her question. "Why, no. Not yet. We've scoured the entire campus and haven't found a single clue as to where she could be. We've upped security, though, to ensure the safety of all who reside here." "Okay. I just think instead of continuing with classes, we should be focused on finding an actual murderer who tried to kill my best friend." "I dunno. Just a thought." Hilda shrugged. "And I think, if you have personal requests for me that are unrelated to the lesson, you should ask me individually after class," he remarked. "Lady Rhea and I have agreed that the safety of the students comes first, therefore, we do not want to expose you all to any more violence than you already have experienced. The Church of Ceros will handle this." Hilda frowned. "Well, I think it's just as important for us to know what's going on," she said. We're the ones being targeted here." Claude stated. "Hilda's right." Seath promptly answered, "Well, we've assigned scout troops to survey the area. We've sent a messenger to deliver a letter to the Oaks estate to explain why we have decided to expel their child from Gareg Mach." Lawrence raised his hand. "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That is what we are supposed to be learning about right now. How about we get back on track?" Leonie got a little mad. Her best friend was just assaulted by the killer and you want to learn about parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction? What do you think is more important? Ignatz looked at Lawrence. "PEMDAS is important and all, but I think Marianne's life is a bit more important right now," he said. I am sorry for interrupting class. And don't get me wrong. I love to learn. But I agree with Hilda and Leonie." "Everyone settle down," Seath said, motioning downward with his hands. We have the situation under control, and that is all that matters. Classes are going to resume as normal, and we will alert everyone when the killer is found. The bell rang, and Leonie got up. Seath said, "Excuse me, please sit back down." "The bell doesn't dismiss you, I do." Claude stood up anyways. Later, he waved and walked out of the classroom. He was the type to tell people that technically, if the teacher isn't there for 15 minutes, they can leave. "I said, excuse me," Seath warned, but Leonie also got up. So did Raphael, and they all started walking out after Claude. Lawrence stayed. "I will only walk out when you give the permission to do so." He had his belongings packed up neatly and had his hands folded. Everyone else dismissed themselves, leaving Lawrence alone in class with Seath. Hilda and Ignatz left to go and visit Marianne. Claude visited as well, but left after a quick hello. He had other things to attend to. Leonie accidentally bumped into Claude in the hallway. "Oops. Sorry. But, actually, I was looking for you. Mind if we chat a bit?" "For me?" "Sure. What's happening?" he asked, folding his arms and leaning back against the wall. "I am not happy with how the church is handling the whole murderer situation. I say we find the killer ourselves if they're just going to let the situation drag on. And, if they're not going to look harder, then I say we boycott class." She frowned. "I'm not happy either. I've been searching for Monica for 2 days now. I'm at my wit's end. I hate to say it, but I agree. Classes should stop until our safety is ensured." "Exactly. So, what do you say? Should we start searching? Or should we just stop showing up to class until they finally get a move on?" Leonie angrily asked. "I don't want to endanger you guys, so I'm gonna shut down the hunting idea. But yeah, I won't be going to class until Monica has been found." "Good. I'll spread the word," Leonie replied, "and I won't let any of the professors make me go to class anyway." "Thanks, Claude, I just wanted to run it by you first." "Yeah, no prob," Claude said with a small salute. He continued off towards the dining hall after she left. Leonie left because she was feeling rebellious and wanted to plan her protests. Check the description for the links to the author.